Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Josh, a friend, the conversation on everyone's lips is not Skyward Sword HD, although it is Friday. It is the day that a decade-long Zelda's finally back out again. No, it's the Steam Deck, which is Valve's entry into literally ripping off the Switch, but doing it in a way that made us all want to get one. I mean, I certainly want to. I'm counting the hours until the pre-orders open later tonight, and I'm battling the impulse buy side of me that knows that it's probably more preferable to wait. Now, the way that we're titling this video is relating to the one part of this whole thing that I don't think not that many people are really talking about, which is the storage side of things, which kind of gets directly in the way of the idea of a portable PC, a portable games console that is targeting, or that at least is letting you play higher end games, because the average game file size is like 40, 50 above gig. And the demo that is out there, the one from IGN, and there's the hands-on video, there's the rapid fire question video, and the lowest SKU that's out there is the 64 gig model that they're going to be selling for £349. But 64 gig will get you one game. I mean, that was the whole thing with the Switch's internal memory being 32 gig, that even that year's NBA game was too big to even fit on the internal storage. So the solution on Valve's side is to give you external SD cards, but that's not going to run high-end games very well from external media. So what do you think about all this?
I think, Scott, I was a bit disappointed as well when I saw the different models, and I like that, they mostly just differ in terms of, the storage size, and I think there's like an anti-glare thing on like the very highest end version that you can buy. But yeah, it does suck, and I think if you go into that first price tier, I think that's very much geared towards, obviously smaller games, maybe indie games, or maybe if you just have one or two games on your machine at any given time that you delete them and pick them up, whatever. I don't think it's a complete bust, but it definitely does kind of sting a little bit, and it kind of, it makes you want, and that's, I presume this is their plan, makes you want to get, another version, something with a bit more storage, something with a bit more meat on it, because if you are playing those, huge games, if you're playing Call of Duty every year or whatever, they're going to be, a lot of gigabytes. It's going to take up a lot of space, and you're going to have to make some pretty tough decisions.
Well, the thing is, the storage space or storage capacity side of, modern gaming is just not really addressed that well. It's sort of, we kind of just accept, everyone who was managed to be able to get a PlayStation 5 or a Series X pretty much maxed them out on day one. It was always that case of you bring all your saves across, you bring all your games across, and immediately you're out of space again. And I feel like that's such a massive talking point that everyone who owns a console acknowledges when we talk to each other, but it's not this massive thing that the industry is focusing on. And I kind of think, and it's not to completely poo-poo on the Steam Deck itself. I think that actually that system looks incredible, but it is that harsh reality where it's kind of like, okay, everything else feels like it's being elevated and it's up here, and oh my god, it's this portable version of a hardware SKU that is apparently quite similar to a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, but the storage side of it just seems to always be this thing that holds things back or gets in the way or is just an annoyance that we deal with on a daily basis. And it's just, I remember the first time, because it's still an ongoing problem, that anything gets announced with a certain amount of data or a certain amount of storage capacity, you get it home, you look at what's actually there in the system settings, and it's always less. And we've kind of just accepted that's just a reality of what this is. And so what's your general thoughts on the overall situation for storage in gaming before I break more stuff down?
I think it's getting worse and also better. But I do think some developers obviously, taking huge steps to optimize their games as much as possible, try to minimize those file sizes, especially when it comes to next gen stuff on the Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 or whatever. They're trying their best to kind of keep those as low as possible, and then ultimately keep us happy, because then we're not having to jump between different storage devices. We're making the most of the inbuilt SSD, and ultimately we get more games on our files, not files, on our memory cards, our storage devices. However, at the same time, some developers just take the piss, and I'm definitely talking about Activision here, because Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is something daft, 210 gigabytes, maybe even more at this current moment in time, and that's ridiculous. If you want everything on there, that's going to take up a third of your hard drive, maybe more, depending on what model you got or what you've got installed, and that's dumb. That is crazy. That almost makes me think conspiratorially that they're doing that on purpose to make sure that's the only game on your device that you can play, and therefore you never feel like you can delete it. That's how mad that seems that I resort to that kind of brand of thinking. But yeah, it is kind of definitely an issue, and certainly it's an issue for, I don't want to have to go out and buy an external storage device for my PlayStation 5, for instance, to hold PlayStation 4 games. But it's something that I'm having to consider now, that I've never had to do that, in the past.
Yeah, and it feels like that's the sort of like this the thing we have to accept. Like if you're playing on Switch, then it's like, well, you have 32 gig internal. The new OLED model's going to have 64, but still, that's not very much. Like that really is absolutely nothing in terms of any top tier game when the average file size. I mean, the games that have been demoed on the IGN video are Doom Eternal, Death Stranding, and Control. I think there was a couple others, but like they have file sizes of like 40, 50 gig. Death Stranding started closer to 80. It's been reduced down on the PC version, which assumedly will be the one. It has to be the one that's on the Steam Deck. But like I said, you're going to fit like a couple of those games on there. Let's run down some other stuff because I think that overall, it's the potential for this system is insane. Like it blows everything completely out the water in terms of a portable PC system that can play everything. Obviously, people are going to use it for emulators. You'll be able to access the Epic Game Store. They've said you could easily get Game Pass working on there, which means you could have like an on-the-go Game Pass machine, which is a hell of a thing. And it really, in terms of Nintendo's market share, will become a total battle of just brand loyalty, because the only thing Nintendo will have going for them is the exclusives, which, even if you go off this year, they don't have that many of them. There's only really Mario Golf right now for 2021. Obviously Skyward Sword, but that's a re-release. And it's just like, what do you think in terms of going forward? Like the three SKUs that they are going to have going forward are a £350 64 gig model, which obviously their most competitive pricing one, with eMMC storage, but also a £459 model and a £569 model for 256 gig and 512 gig. Both of them come with non-volatile memory express, which is a type of memory storage. Apparently it's geared towards SSD, which means everything will load faster. So if you want something that is more premium, it's going to be the middle SKU or the top SKU. The top one also coming with anti-glare glass as well. But in terms of this whole push for dominating the handheld market, something that the Switch and Nintendo have had such a hand on. What do you think going forward? Thank you. Will it actually be, is there even a chance that Valve and PC architecture etches in at all, or are people just too indebted to Nintendo?
Obviously Nintendo has a huge kind of like leg up in terms of their exclusives. You are completely right in that for like this year, there's not too much there. There's not too much to like look forward to, but they've been, hitting it out the park over the past few years. They've got a lot on their slate that looks, really interesting. I mean, Metroid Dread at the end of this year, Breath of the Wild 2, obviously, and a whole bunch more that they've probably not announced yet, Splatoon 3, whatever. Like, I think people go to Nintendo for those exclusives more so than to play games kind of like handheld. Handheld, for me at least, is like a lovely little luxury. I was playing my Switch last night and I was doing a handheld and I was like, this is really good, but what I'm here for and what I was playing was a Nintendo exclusive. I think, the Steam Deck is going to be kind of like certainly dangerous for Nintendo, but I think it's just going to be kind of like, if it's done well, a threat to everyone. Like, because I feel like, if what they say is true and it turns out to be an impressive piece of kit and a lot of people respond to it, like to have kind of, a PC in your hands or whatever, even though your hands are going to have to be gouged to actually, press the buttons. And like I never thought I would be interested in that. When you messaged me about this last night, before I looked into it, I was kind of like, oh, it's going to be another one of these Valve things.
Well, we both
like
said Steam
doesn't really
Machine.
go anywhere. Steam Machine, exactly. It's going to be maybe like that, but the more I'm looking into it, if they pull it off, I'm interested. I'm certainly interested, and I wouldn't have been before.
Yeah, it's like how many games have come out where maybe it's early access on PC or it's some little indie thing that looks really, really cool, but it's only on PC for a bit, and we're always waiting for the console release, because the age-old debate between console gaming, PC gaming, it's always a bit of a faff to game on PC, and every time I've tried to do that, I don't know if it's the same with you, but every time I've tried to get something off the ground on PC, there's just one too many options, sliders, tweaks, problems with the way that something runs, where I just throw my hands up and go, I just want it to work. I just want to play the game. I want the version that the developers intended, which I can get on a console. And I know that that's a whole umbrella topic conversation, because there's obviously examples like Cyberpunk where something is developed for the PC and then made to fit on a console. It's a whole thing. But I want to be able to just play the game. I don't want to be sitting faffing with different options all the time, because even that makes my mind break when I have to choose between performance mode and resolution mode right now, let alone 20 different sliders on field of view and anti-aliasing and all these different things. But if they can find a way to just give you a system that is ostensibly like a Switch, but with a PC library, and it just works, it just Todd Howard's, then that would be great. So I like the idea of this a lot. And obviously there's all the wider stuff about it's literally a PC. So if you want to just sort of install Windows on it and just go hog wild with whatever you want down that road, emulators, whatever else, you can. But that whole idea of just sort of consoleizing PC gaming, that totally gets me in.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I fully agree. There's going to be a bunch of people who, are hardcore PC players.
Rich Hudson's throwing up right now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Like, I'm sure he threw up in his own hat and then did it again in his own bum yesterday. But at the same time, like, I don't think this is necessarily for them. It's a nice addition, but for the people who are saying, why not just buy a PC? The only answer I can give as a consoleman is that I don't want to. And it's not because I have anything against PC gaming or anything like that. But it's a very kind of personal thing, it's the fact that, take into account everything you just said. I liked having it in the comfort of my own living room, but I also like, separating potential workspaces from leisure spaces, Scott. That's the big thing for me. I don't want to game on the machine that I do work on, which would be the case if I did get a PC. So for it to be portable, for it to be something that I can move around with, and ultimately make PC gaming more accessible to me, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Yep. And like you said, there are so many like little indies or so many other games, not indies, that have come to PC first that I've missed out on and I've been good, but that has never really, made me want to splash 800 quid on a PC or anything like that. But this kind of this bridges the gap, I think. And I think, for a lot of people who have been diehard console people for their entire life, this might finally get them, looking to the other side. It might even act as a gateway drug to a proper PC in the future. Who knows?
You're going to be building one in 2023. I think the thing as well to mention is that it is dock compatible, but it's sold separately. But they are doing a USB-C dock, USB-C dock that will let you, make the Steam Deck go to any monitor you want onto a TV. It's the Switch. It's the Switch approach. It's that whole hybridization of handheld and docks. And there's obviously I can run down some quick specs in terms of the screen is 1280 by 800. It can be 60 FPS on the handheld, but it can go up to 120 frames a second. When docked, or at least that's what they're saying for now. There's so much up in the wind in regards to how developers can take advantage of this thing and all things like that. But it seems like as well the marketing timing could not have been better for them. Like this is almost like Xbox get out there in 2013 and say all this stuff about DRM, and then Sony just go, here's how you trade games on a PlayStation 4, and just immediately got everyone on side. This is happening a week after the thoroughly disappointing Nintendo Switch OLED, where a lot of people were just looking for a more pro-based upgrade in terms of hardware capacity, processor, whatever. And this thing literally is that. And the vast majority of your library in terms of third-party stuff will carry over. You'll have to buy them again, but it's accessible on there. And I think that, like I said, it couldn't have come at a better time, especially when the hardware side of this thing is being compared to a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, which the Switch is already behind. And because they're not changing the processor, that just means going forward, unless they do a 4K Switch, this system is it outpaces it at every turn other than the exclusives, which is a hell of a thing to hang an entire brand on.
It is, and I'm going to be interested to see, when, obviously, like you said, the pre-orders go up tonight, I'm going to be interested to see how it's received, how it sells, and whether it does kind of break the Steam machine curse that, was very rampant a few years ago. I hope it does well, I've definitely got my eye on it. I'm not going to pre-order it straight away, like I'm sure you're going to do, because you're an absolute madman.
I don't know yet. I have an OLED Switch coming, which I don't even need it, mate. I don't even want it. I just sort of I need to know. That's always I'm going to get a shirt that says I need to know. Tattoo it onto myself. I need to know. I need to know what this is.
Well, the question is, I guess to bring it back to the original question from the start of this video, which model would you buy? If you're going to pre-order it tonight, which is the one catching your eye? Are you going to have to go all in, get the top of the range one? Or are you going to just kind of snuggle into it for the 64 gig?
It's definitely, for me, it's the middle one, because I think 64 gig is terrible. That's going to, like I said, that's going to fit one AAA game on it and a ton of indies. It's very, very little. The storage card that I have on my Switch is a 256 gig, which is, that seems to be a nice middle ground. I don't need half a terabyte, so it's that whole thing. And so I'd be going down the middle route if I was going to do it. £450 I think it is. The way that they've got their queuing system set up as well, where it's £4 to secure a place in the queue, but the actual order doesn't go through until December, so they've got plenty of time to actually sort it out. Seems like a hell of a better step than what we've just been through, or what people are going through with the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X. So I like their approach to it. But yeah, mine would be the middle. I know you were saying that you're going to end up getting the premium one if you do go down this route.
Well, Scott, man, I'm the exact kind of consumer that these companies like. If I'm going to get the middle one, it is £100 difference. My brain just goes, well, if you've gone that far, what's another £100? And £100 really is a lot of money, but my brain doesn't work like I want it to, and I don't have that same impulse control. So if I was going to commit to it, and it comes out, it's well received, does what it says it's going to do, I think, if it's going to be something I'm going to play for a long time, and it's going to be my PC essentially, essentially. I mean, I personally, if it's worth it, would go for the top one. But who knows?
You're not wrong. No, I think brass tacks, like it's a lot of money, but I think, like you said, there is all this wider stuff about it just being a PC in terms of just docking something, having it on the TV, have a keyboard and mouse already connected to the dock, and then it just becomes a PC. I like that whole hybrid approach to stuff, but the money is a massive thing. So I guess I'm curious as well, just waiting to see if it actually is as good as it seems to be, because right now it seems a bit too good to be true, and it feels like there's just something that maybe get in the way. We might want to wait for more reviews, because right now it's only IGN who've had hands-on so far, and their coverage is great, but I want to see a hell of a lot more literal, just hands-on stuff, because the actual form factor of it also seems crazy. We haven't got that much time to talk about it right now, but in terms of having twin trackpads carrying over the Steam controller thing to mimic mouse movement and stuff like that is an interesting way to go. But let us know what you think down in the comments below of the old Steam Deck. Are you going to be pre-ordering as soon as possible, or are you going to wait and see how things go for the rest of this year? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.